Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Game Over Ottawa. Maude and Charlie here once again after the Ottawa Senators have defeated the Carolina Hurricanes 7-5 in a crazy game to close out the regular season. So, we got to hit that button because the Carolina Hurricanes got sensed tonight, and that was feeling honestly like a bit of a classic sensing with a comeback in there. We haven't had too many come from behind wins, especially after when trailing after two periods this year. But it was a fun game in the end. How are you feeling, Charlie?
I'm good. I went back and forth. I was like, this game means nothing. And then they gave up five unanswered goals, and I went, oh, maybe this does mean something. But then they won, so I still feel like I'm kind of in between now. I'm in between. I'm like, that's overall a mixed but solid showing heading into the playoffs. So it could be worse. I think it could be a lot
Mm-hmm.
worse.
Yeah, like when it looked like this was going to be a blowout win for Carolina, in that second period, I was thinking it's a bad effort. It's not how you want to see the team going into the playoffs, especially because they rested a couple guys tonight, but you still had most of the starting lineup in, and you had your starting goaltender in. But they end up getting the win in the end. So I mean, it wasn't a full 60-minute effort that we've honestly been able to see from this team quite consistently over the last few months, especially. But they got the job done in the end, and it still still resulted in a really entertaining game. A little bit silly with all the penalties. It was 9 penalties in the end called on Carolina, and to be honest, especially those last 2 penalties that they called, I thought that they were just gonna, do the game management and be like, okay, Carolina's down a goal with 5 minutes left. We're not gonna call anything else on them. But the refs just said fuck it, and they said fuck you to Rob Brindamore. He was already screaming after like the 6th penalty, and his team ended up taking 9 minor penalties tonight. Luckily, the Sens were able to get 3 power play goals, which is pretty nice. It's kind of funny seeing a game like that to close out the regular season because you know that there's okay, 9 power plays. You probably won't even get 9 power plays over the first like 4 games of the playoffs. Like just the way that that refereeing changes, but pretty good to see the power play actually be able to produce in the end, even though it took them a while to get going in this game.
Yeah, I don't know how much I want to buy into and just for reference for everyone watching, we're kind of going to relate everything. I imagine we're going to relate everything in this game into being like, how do you feel about what you saw tonight going into the playoffs? Um yeah, I in general, if you had asked me this morning what I'm most concerned about heading into the playoffs, it's definitely the offense. They put up 7 goals, so and especially, like you said, 3 goals on the power play. That's fantastic. We'll see how many opportunities they get in those first few games. Um, but yeah, I think the power play itself is looking good. Special teams in general, I'm still a little iffy on. Um, I imagine things will look a bit better. Risk of seeing Travis Hamonic on the PK at all. Um, But I've already talked myself in a full circle here. I think I've already like moved off what you started talking about.
Well, it's
I'm
funny
not on
about
my
the
A
power
game.
play because even though they end up with a pretty good percentage on the night, there was that whole 2 minute 5-on-3 where I think they only got like one shot on
Yeah,
goal in that whole sequence or something like that. So it's weird with the Sens special teams where even when they end up like with a pretty good result on the numbers, I'm still like, it wasn't that good. And like the 7th power play, I think they had a total of 7 shots on the power play at that point. So it's like 1 shot per power play, which is pretty ridiculous. And I mean, if you're scoring on those shots, it's not a problem. Sometimes that happens. Like
right.
uh, Dylan Cousins did score on that 1 shot on his power play goal, but then there was like a streak of 5 or 6 power plays in between with just like 1 shot per, and then they managed to put the game away in the end. So yeah, at least the power play got a lot of practice because they're going to have to be more lethal in the playoffs, like I said, with less opportunities to come. But also, yeah, in terms of the offense, you're thinking offense being potentially the biggest question mark heading into the playoffs. I feel like our top players on offense, they cleaned up by the end of this game, but early on in the game, it was a lot of depth scoring. You got Adam Gaudette scoring the first goal, and assist from Nick Cousins as well. We like to see that, and of course, the Pinto Amadio Greg line combining for a goal as well, and obviously Gaudette scored again later in the game when he was moved up the lineup. So I feel like seeing all those guys contribute tonight is pretty encouraging because, to be honest, I think the depth scoring on offense could be huge in the playoffs, especially because we'll get into this later in terms of specifically talking about how we match up against the Leafs, but I feel like the Leafs bottom six could be a bit of a weakness compared to the Sens bottom six. Like, I feel like that's one of the things on the roster construction where you could say that the Sens have the edge in. So happy to see guys like that contributing right before the playoffs, eh?
Yeah, definitely a bright spot tonight. Um, and I just want to give a quick shout out to Louis from the Zoomcast slash LB Hockey because when I had him on, we were talking about how we'd set up a lineup for the playoffs, and he was adamant about keeping that third line together. So
Mm-hmm.
they proved him right.
Yeah, that I think that's going to be crucial, and that might be the line that ends up drawing Matthews and Marner. I don't know how the Leafs are drawing up their lines at the moment. Maybe
Yeah.
we'll take a look at that later, but that's often been the line that Travis Green goes to be the shutdown line, and they can chip in offense as well, which is just absolutely what you love to see from your third line. Um, I also want to shout out Fabian Zetterlund too. Like
Yeah.
that huge play in the third period where he had a few scoring chances leading up to his assist on Batherson's goal, but specifically right before the goal, he stole it from the Carolina defender, burned past him, got a great chance that Frederick Anderson made an amazing toe save on, and then he doesn't give up. He gets robbed on that chance, but he manages to steal the puck from the Carolina defense again on the same shift, pass it off to Dylan Cousins, back to him, back to Batherson, into the back of the net. Even though Fabian Zetterlund hasn't been like a huge goal scorer so far, only 2 goals since the trade deadline with the Sens. He's getting a few assists as well. It's not like a beautiful stat line, but I just love the way this guy plays. And I feel like the offense is coming, right? Like, I feel like I don't know necessarily if he's going to break out on the score sheet in the playoffs, but if we keep this guy heading into next season, I feel like he could put up like 50 points next year.
Yeah, I was really, really impressed with him. Nice to see, more of those chances becoming goals. I don't know how many games it took for him to get that first goal since the trade. It was
It was double
near
digits
double
for
digits,
sure.
if not double digits.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but he's looked solid enough throughout his time in Ottawa, even when he wasn't getting on the score sheet. So I think it'd be crazy not to hold on to him and try and at least give him some kind of like a bridge deal because they've got him on as an RFA this summer, so it should be easy enough, you think. I think he's having a fun time. It's a bit of a bit of a difference probably jumping from, getting all the ice time in the world in San Jose to potentially being on the fourth line in the playoffs. Um, Depending on how they want to put that lineup together, as long as everyone's healthy and fingers crossed. Um, but yeah, he's been really, really impressing me the last few games, especially since it's really starting to click with him. And I think he makes for a really, really interesting like guy that you can move all over the lineup. You could stick him on the second power play if you want. His speed really stuck out to me tonight, though.
Hmm.
Out of anything, it was his speed was really, really impressive.
Yeah, and it's funny because it almost feels like it feels weird, or I almost feel bad having a guy with that scoring capability on the fourth line. But then at the same time, that's
Yeah.
such a good problem to have. Like, if Fabian Zetterlund is only getting like fourth line ice time on your team, then that means that your top nine, your top 3 lines are looking pretty good. And like you said, if they need to shuffle things around at any point, he's shown that he has been able to produce. Like, it took him a while to get that production, but he's been able to do it, and with different line mates too. Like sometime with Stutzla, and this time it was producing a goal with Batherson and Cousins. So I'm excited to see how he factors into this team's playoff chances as we move forward towards the Battle of Ontario. But we might as well we should talk about the defense and goaltending because this was a 7-5 game. Carolina
Yeah.
did get their fair share of offense,
Yeah.
but it's so weird. It was really just like almost a 10-minute stretch that was divided between the first and second periods. It was just like a sleepy finish to the first period in the last 3 minutes where they get two quick ones, and then the Sens didn't really look like they were ready to start the second period. They allow 3 goals in the first 7 minutes of the second period. All of a sudden, you go from 3 up to down 5-3. There was there was many mistakes, there was many errors over that stretch. I feel like just mentally it was probably just the team being like, oh, we got a 3-0 lead. Carolina, they're not that good on offense, they're resting some guys, we can kind of relax a little bit. But they were not able to relax. Carolina came right back at them. So like, do you think it was mostly just a mental thing, or is there anything that's worrying you about those goals against heading into the playoffs?
In a vacuum, I'm a little worried, but like based on just the way the season has gone, I'm not all that worried. Like I can't blame them for being like, we're up 3-0. Let's not go full on puck battles in the corners and risk getting hurt before the playoffs. Like you're up 3-0, like in the last game of the season, that it means nothing. Like I can't blame them for taking their foot off the gas a little bit. Um, it got a little wild when it was suddenly 5 goals against. It was like, holy shit, okay. Um, but no, I definitely think mentally they're like, okay, let's take a step back. Even if it wasn't like a conscious decision, like maybe it was just kind of like one of those like we're up 3-0, like this game means nothing. Let's just see what happens. But I am appreciative of the fact that they clearly like, went full effort towards the end there and brought it back. Um, as far as an actual concern, I don't know if I have one. People are pointing out Allmark didn't have the best game. Obviously not, but like
I'm kind of
I'm not
glad
concerned.
I'm kind of glad that he got a bad game out of his system right before the playoffs, because
Yeah.
even though he's been really good this year, he's had a few stinkers, but
Mhm.
normally it's just like one stinker and then he gets right back to being solid again. So timing wise, better to have that game now than at the start of the playoffs, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess that's why you try and stick some guys in there in the last game of the season before speaking of which, Brady Kachuk apparently is fine, so that's
Mm-hmm.
good. Um
That was scary. Luckily, it
that
was
was
just
I did
a high
not like
stick,
that.
because
Oh my God.
his injury was an upper body injury, right? I don't think it was necessarily like a concussion, but you just see something going right up to his face, and then you see him down on the ice for a while, and I think
Yeah.
everyone's heart skipped a beat at
Oh
that
my
moment.
God. Yeah, injury history or not, that's a scary stick getting up there. That's not fun. Um I still think Allmark's going to steal them a game in this first round. I have full confidence in that being a thing that's going to happen. Um, defense, if they have the 6 best defenders on the team in the lineup every single night, I'm
Yeah.
not concerned. Travis Hamnick, I'm so glad you hit 900 games. I don't expect you to hit 901. Like
Please, no.
that
No.
give that was it the 5th goal? That
I think
clean
so.
that was the cleanest pass he's made all season.
Yeah, beautiful assist that he made there.
Tape to tape, gorgeous.
It's
Wrong
so
team,
funny.
but
It's so funny
ugh,
because I feel like he's had a season full of like blooper reel highlights, and then he might have made his worst one in the final game of the year in game 82. He like topped all of them. And the one a few games ago against the Flyers where he had his stick in position to stop the wraparound and he decided to move it out of the way and try to do a kick save, a sliding kick save, and just
oh
kicked
my
it
God,
into his own net. I thought that was going to be the worst Hamannik screw up of the season, but he made an even worse play here tonight. So, holy crap! I hope he does not play any playoff games. He cannot start. Like he better not be in the game one lineup for sure. Like if injuries happen, then whatever. It'll be scary, but whatever at that point. But
yeah.
he better not be in if everyone's healthy.
He can't be in ahead of Gilbert either. Like
Would you play
Gilbert
someone
has
on their
done nothing
offside
to
instead?
impress me. He's done nothing to impress me, but you can't put Hamonic in. Hamonic is your number 8 in like worst case scenario you put him in then.
Yeah.
Um
I think they just
yeah.
love that lefty and righty balance, on each
Yeah.
side. So if you put in Gilbert for one of the right handy, then you don't quite have that anymore, which makes it a bit more challenging. But I don't know.
I'll
I
take
I
Gilbert
get what you're
without a
saying.
stick over
Yeah.
Hamonic. I don't give a fuck how he holds it. Like whatever.
just I wonder if you just tried to teach Gilbert to just play with a right-handed stick, and then if that would be better than Hamonic, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah. Who knows? The one thing I am genuinely concerned with, and it's not a takeaway from this game specifically. It's the way that the PK hasn't changed all season.
Yeah.
The game plan with the PK really just seems to be weather the storm. Just take as many shots as you can. Like they aren't playing the puck. They're giving the opponents all the time and space in the world when they're on the PK. Yeah, we're not going to try and get in the way of your passes. We're not going to do anything. We're just going to hope that you hit one of us when you take a shot. And I don't know how that's going to work when it's Matthews or Nylander or Tavares taking those shots. So that's the one thing I'm very nervous about heading into the playoffs. The rest of it, though, with that little asterisk next to the lineup for defense, I'm feeling okay. I'm feeling
Hmm.
okay.
You gotta think like it's okay. It's not that they're gonna totally change up their penalty kill strategy, but I'd like to think that just because the Maple Leafs power play is so potent that
Yeah.
they would do a little bit of specific coaching for this series when you're playing them potentially 7 games in a row, where they'd be like, okay, maybe let's make some adjustments because it's going to be like William Nylander on that left wing side. You don't want to give him all the time of day, and whether it's him or Marner or whoever over there, they can always, if you're giving them a bunch of time and space, they can always find Matthews for the one timer on the other side. So I definitely agree about your worry there, but
Yeah, 'cause they
I would
can move
think,
the puck, no question. And the
yeah,
fact that the Sens game plan is, for whatever reason, do not get in the passing lanes. I'm I don't like it. I don't like it at all.
yeah, that's totally fair. Hey, we're pretty much already talking about how we're gonna match up against the
Yeah.
Leafs, so we might as well call that a wrap on talking about tonight's game because I think it was a really fun one. I'm glad that they were able to win for the home ice fans, fan
Yeah.
appreciation night, but there are bigger things to look forward to for the first time in 8 years. Playoff hockey coming to Ottawa. So before we get into our next segment, just going to let you know if you're looking for ways to help an upstart media company that employs over 30 young journalists and analysts across Canada, and if you have a few spare bucks kicking around, you can head to our Patreon page at patreon.com/thegameovernetwork. There you'll find multiple tiers featuring different rewards and goodies for helping us grow. There's extra access, exclusive looks behind the scenes, Discord benefits, merch discounts, opportunities to give us feedback, and you can even join us for special shows live, where you can interact with hosts as we launch more ways to improve your experience. If you're not able to spare a few dollars, we have a free tier available so you don't miss out. If you really want to help us, make sure to click like and subscribe on YouTube, rate us 5 stars on your favorite podcast app, and share our work on your social media of choice. That's patreon.com/thegameovernetwork. So, again, before we get fully into talking about the Battle of Ontario, just going to do like a quick look back at the season that was because it turned out to be a pretty damn good one, regardless of what happens in the playoffs. Just the fact that this team is back in the playoffs, the season is already a success. And with their 45th win of the season tonight, if you rank purely by wins and not by points, because there's other seasons where they had a lot of overtime losses or a lot of ties even back in the day, still in the late 90s. This is the 5th most wins in a season for the Sens ever. They have two 52-win seasons and two 48-win seasons, and we got 45 this year. So if you told me at the beginning of the year that this was going to be a top 5 season for the Sens in terms of wins in the regular season, I probably wouldn't have believed you. I'll put it that way. So pretty damn good, eh?
That's actually kind of surprising that with, all the I won't say that this team has had a ton of playoff success, but for as many years as they've been in the playoffs, it's kind of surprising that 45 is number 5.
Yeah, so just for a couple of examples, 2017 they had 10 overtime losses.
Oh my God.
So more points. It was one more point. 97 points this year, 98 points that year. 1999 they had 15 ties, so they were a 103 point team with 44 wins. Um,
Wow.
and then 2015, which was the hamburger year, 13 overtime losses. So there's a few years like that, you know?
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, I think, on the ignoring potential outcomes in the playoffs and everything, it's tough to not look at the season as a major success. I mean, you can get nitpicky and be like, yeah, this should have been last year or maybe even the year before if you are very patient when it comes to rebuilds or anything. Like I definitely think this should have been the case. This should have been happening last year. Is my opinion in the grand scheme of
Yeah,
the
I
timeline of
agree.
everything. But like the fact is like, the team's in the playoffs now and the core is still there. The core is still young. Um, it should be this should be a playoff team for the next several seasons, knock on wood. But yeah, no, this season it's tough to look at it as anything but a success because they finished what, 6th in the East in the
Mm-hmm.
grand scheme of like
Yeah,
looking
more
at how
points than New
back when it
Jersey, even
was,
though,
yeah, back in the like 1 to 8 days, we're looking at number 6, which sometimes is where you want to be
mm-hmm.
back in the day, because that number 3 spot maybe is the best team in a shitty division. Maybe that would have helped. I don't think it would in this case, but um
Now I'm kind of curious who the opponent is with if it was a 1 through 8 ranking. It would probably be Tampa, right? That would be third. Yeah, we would be playing Tampa if it was the old system. I mean, the old system also had there was like the 6 divisions or whatever, so 3 division winners.
yeah,
But
so that number
if it
3
was one
spot
through
might
eight,
be whoever was the top spot in a different division,
yeah,
but
in
that's
in
a
a
division that doesn't exist anymore.
yeah,
So
exactly. But yeah, and over the course of this season too, it wasn't it wasn't smooth sailing. Like it was a roller coaster because I there was so many points where I felt like it was over, you know? Like they never got so far back that they didn't have a chance to get themselves back into it. But I went
yeah,
back and looked and pulled out a few key like dates throughout the season
okay,
where I
yeah.
felt like the Sens were kind of at their lowest, which is pretty much always like immediately following a losing streak. So like
Then there for a team with the 5th most wins in a season.
yeah,
There were some bad losing streaks.
there really were, which is why I'm kind of expecting one team, don't know which one, to either get a 2 or 3 nothing series lead, and then we'll watch the other team storm back in the first round here.
Yeah,
That's kind of my prediction just because of how streaky the Sens are.
yeah,
But November 24th, this was right after losing on home ice to the Canucks, and I think they had lost 3 or 4 straight home games at that point. It was like a 5 game homestand. They didn't win until the last game, which is also crazy because their home record was really good this year. But
yeah.
on this date, it was through 20 games played. The Sens were 8-11-1, second last in the Eastern Conference, 5 points back of the wild card spot. Funny enough, the Habs were 1 point behind us in dead last, and both of those end up being the wildcard teams, the Sens and the Habs.
Crazy.
So after another bad November, it looked like the team might be cooked again, and it looked like, maybe they didn't make the right coaching decision with Travis Green, but then they had a fantastic month of December. But then, of course, the good streaks are always followed up by some struggles. At January 10th, which I believe was, so what was it? Was it a 9 or 10 game road trip there when during the World
Oh
Juniors?
yeah, crazy during the World Juniors. Yeah.
Yeah, the
Um,
road trip started off really well. I think it was 5 or 6 wins right at the beginning, and then the last few games it was 4 or 5 losses, and then they came back. I think the first home game back was against Buffalo. They got shut out on home ice. So January 10th through 40 games, about halfway through the season, they were 19, 18, and 3, which technically above 500, but 3 points behind the final wildcard spot. And then March 1st through 58 games, which was after, I think it was 2 games in after the Four Nations break, 29, 25, and 4, which again, not bad, above 500, but they had fallen to 4 points behind the wild card at that point. So I just think it's interesting how this was not like a guarantee at any point throughout the season. They they gave us reasons to believe and they gave us reasons to doubt, but they got there in the end. And I just think it's really interesting how it played out, the ups and downs of this year, because the Sens always make it interesting. Like within a game, if they get a big lead, the other team always comes back and scares us. Or if the other team gets a lead, we'll make it close. We don't have that many comeback wins this year, but we always make it close. I just think it's funny how things have played out.
Yeah, also shout out to the Rangers, Islanders, Blue Jackets, and Red Wings for all playing like garbage at the same
Yeah,
time.
holy
That
shit.
was a big help.
All of those teams just like gift wrapped the playoff spots to Ottawa and especially Montreal. Because in the end,
Yeah.
we're almost 10 points, I think 8 points ahead of Montreal in the final, with the final 82 games played. But yeah, those other teams just fell off because I think on that date in January 10th, I think the two wildcard teams, or was it the? It might have even been the case in in March as well. The wildcard teams were like Detroit and Columbus, and we were behind them. And then Columbus got
Yeah.
kind of close at the end, but Detroit fell off. So
Detroit. Oh my God, Detroit. Like, holy. Also, I don't want to pat myself in the back too much because we both agreed. So in the offseason when we did our division preview, we both agreed that Montreal was last. We both had Montreal in last. And like this means nothing because I still like I liked Boston and Buffalo coming into this season, but I did say that I could see Montreal making the playoffs ahead of Detroit. Like Montreal, if I would have picked one of
hey,
them to make the playoffs, I said Montreal.
so you picked
So
them last regardless, but
I
you were like,
lower floor,
but
higher
maybe,
ceiling, right? I was like, if
yeah.
Hudson's real and Caulfield actually scores 30 and Suzuki has a good season, and then it
Mhm.
just all happened.
Yep, they got all of those things. So, hey, pretty good prediction. And speaking of our off-season predictions, I'm pretty sure we both said that the Sens would be like 1 or 2 points either in or out of the playoffs. I don't remember actually if I said in or out in the end. Like, do you remember if you said that we would be in at
I
the
said
very beginning?
in, but I definitely thought we were going to clinch like game 81, not
Yeah,
78.
I thought it was going to come down to like the last 1 or 2 games, and I'm so glad that it didn't. The fact that they clinched almost two
Yeah.
weeks ago, and we got to just have like 5 completely meaningless hockey games and just rest all these guys who have been banged up, absolutely wonderful. Like, just great, especially because you see, or we saw how much Montreal fans were absolutely stressing
Oh
that it
my
took them
God,
like
yeah.
an extra week to clinch, because they could have clinched against the Sens 4 games ago, and then they decided to have a 3 game losing streak in there and clinch it on game
Yeah.
82. I'm very grateful that despite the ups and downs of this season, they got that playoff spot wrapped up before the end of the year.
Yeah. Um, I can't imagine being that level of stressed out immediately before the playoffs.
Yeah, that's the thing, is we got a cool down. Like, the Montreal's been playing playoff hockey for the past like 3 weeks already, just
Yeah.
trying to keep pace in that last playoff spot. Whereas the Sens, it was the case for the Sens, but then they got to calm down for a little bit, and I think that's part of why today's game was so wacky. Was both teams involved resting players and just really not really giving much of a crap, and just it was like pond hockey out there tonight with no defense to be seen. So. Uh, glad that we will be getting those intense games real soon, but also glad that we got to just relax for a little bit, eh?
Yeah. I needed it. I obviously, first time that the Sens are in the playoffs in 8 years. Fun, actually, by the way, happy 8 year anniversary to the Carlson pass to Hoffman
Yes, I
today.
saw that earlier today.
Um,
Legendary.
I don't know. I don't know how my body's gonna take it.
Oh
I'm
God.
28. I haven't watched playoff hockey where I cared since I was 20.
Hmm.
I was 20. I was 20 when the Sens last made the playoffs, and I'm like exiting my 20s. I'm gonna be 29 in just a few months. Like,
I was 18 during the 2017 run, and even then, like I've always had anxiety. I've always been like a nervous wreck. But I remember during the Game 7 against Pittsburgh, I remember feeling like I was gonna like actually pass out. Like I had to be sitting down and I had to be like being careful because that was so anxiety inducing. And first round in the playoffs is still on that scale,
oh, for
but
sure.
obviously third round game 7 overtime is a whole nother level. But specifically because this first round matchup is going to be against Toronto, it's going to be heightened because I remember even when I was a teenager, specifically the series that like got me going the most and freaked me out the most were those ones against Montreal.
Yeah.
Specifically, like the first time we destroyed them, but it was really intense still, like just between the fan bases and everything. And then the second time they beat us, and it was fucking heartbreaking losing to a rival like that. That was the first time that I really experienced that because I was too young to really like. I mean, I would have been too young to remember the original Battle of Ontario series that the Leafs won all of those, but also I hadn't even moved to Ottawa yet, so wasn't aware. I was too young, and even if I was here, I probably
Yeah.
wouldn't have remembered anyway.
So we could actually address that in the chat too. Grant Clarkson posted earlier, Armand and Charlie in their infancy with the historic Battle of Ontario.
Yep.
Uh, so you are in this case. I remember the later ones.
Like
I guess
2004
more so
probably.
2004 because like it would have been what 2000. It would have been like in 2000, 01, 02. In 03, the Sens got to the Eastern Conference Final because they didn't have to play Toronto. I believe that was the New Jersey
Yeah.
series. And I remember out of all of them, the one I do remember fairly like decently is 04. Granted, uh
Was that
in the
Nieuwendyk on the Leam? Was it the one?
yeah, I think that was 04. Um Granted, I was 7,
Yeah.
so I wasn't necessarily staying up for every game if it was on a Wednesday night or something. And my general hockey obsession kind of started during the lockout, like immediately after that. Um, when I was playing an absurd amount of NHL 05 and I realized, oh, I think I really like hockey. I miss watching hockey. So like yeah, like the oh six playoffs when the Hurricanes won, that was the first time I was like allowed to stay up and watch. When I was 9, I was allowed to stay up and watch the team win the Stanley Cup. So I probably wasn't staying up for too
Oh,
many full
and
games in
and you
oh
got the
04.
Sens in the final the next year.
The next
Yeah.
year,
So yeah,
yeah,
I at least am not too young to remember 2007 because my family moved to Ottawa I think like late 2005.
okay,
So the first year that I paid attention really was the Cup run year, and then I've been stuck with the Sens ever since then. It's like good timing to start being a
for
fan,
sure,
but also
yeah.
like it's been tough since then too. So it's not like I became like a Pittsburgh Penguins fan in 2007. That would have been pretty sweet
Yeah, or
if
my buddy Sam, as he's known in the Game Over circles, the biggest Washington Capitals fan in Australia. Um, he was like, it was 2017, and he goes, "I want to watch more hockey. Who should I pick?" And he looks it up. There's one Australian player in the NHL.
yo, that's
Nathan
right.
Walker was on the Washington Capitals, so his first year being a hockey fan, he picks the Caps and they win the cup.
That's perfect. That's so funny.
It's ridiculous.
It's
Um,
funny how that stuff works. Just
yeah,
the right timing sometimes. One of my friends really started paying attention in 2017, and then I really feel bad for him because you get that one really good year, and then the 8 years that followed, it's been a long
been
time of hanging in there as
painful.
a Sens fan, you know?
And even as a diehard Blue Jays fan, I have not seen one of my teams win a playoff game since 2017. The Blue Jays have been swept all 3 years they've made the
Oh
playoffs
God,
in that time.
yeah. Holy
So
shit.
I haven't watched my team that I cheer for win a playoff game since
Oh
whatever that would have
God.
been game 6 in the Eastern Conference Finals in 2017.
I at least also root for the Blue Jackets and they made the playoffs a few times after 2017, but not in the
Yeah.
last 4 years. And I root for Edmonton as well. My dad is from Edmonton, so we got family there. So last year the cup run for Edmonton was really exciting, but it's not the same. It's not the same as if it's the Sens, you know. It just
No.
so super exciting to be back in the playoffs, and we might as well get into just talking fully on about the Battle of Ontario now because we were already creeping into it a little bit. But if you're enjoying the show so far, you probably want more of this, right? Make sure you hit the like button on this video, click subscribe on our channel, and make sure to check the notification bell as well so you're alerted when we go live. If you're listening to our podcast, please give us a 5-star rating or even write a positive review. If you really like us, make sure to follow us on your favorite social media platforms. You can find the Game Over Network on Blue Sky at thegameovernetwork.com, on TikTok and Twitter at GameOverNHL, or on Instagram, Threads, and LinkedIn, it is Game Over Network. And of course, if you want to follow any of the Game Over Ottawa members, all of our social medias are linked in the descriptions of every episode on YouTube and on the podcast versions as well. You can also find us at thegameovernetwork.com, where you can sign up for our upcoming newsletter. So yeah, here it is, third period, Battle of Ontario playoff preview. We gotta talk about it now. Do you want to start off with just a straight prediction of who wins? What's your call?
Oh man.
Sorry to put you on the spot. I just kind of assumed that you would have already had like an outcome in mind.
I do. It's tough because like I don't want to put too much stock into 3 games in the regular season,
Yeah.
but that's all we have to go off of. Um, my gut. Oh, this is tough. This is so tough. I feel like these are just my gut is telling me it's a coin flip. These are 2 teams that are terrified of game sevens, and
Yeah.
I feel like I can see this going 7 games, and one of these 2 teams is going to break that curse. Like the Sens have never won a game 7
Not even
ever.
once.
The Leafs, did
It's
they
been a
beat Tampa?
while.
They
I'm
beat
sure
Tampa in
game
6.
6. Yeah. I'm sure they had a
So
game 7 win at some point, but it's been a long time. Like
yeah,
not in the Matthews era. You
I'm
know what? It
sure
was probably
it's gone
2004.
7.
It was probably freaking Joe Nieuwendyk embarrassing Lalime. That was probably their last game 7 win.
Yeah,
Or
so
maybe if they had one in like the second round after that or something.
yeah, so even then, like my prediction is one of these teams is going to break a long curse of game sevens, and
It has
I
to.
just I can't
You can't
I can't
decide.
I,
You can't call it.
I'm leaning Toronto.
Okay. Because it's kind of funny that I put you on the spot for that first because like I think my like my heart says Sens in 7, but I think my head says Leafs in 7. I don't want to I don't want to pick them, but I just feel like as the underdog, it's hard to just be like, yeah, we're definitely gonna win. You know, like
Yeah.
it's. I feel like the Sens are going to put on a show. I think they're going to make it a really entertaining series. I think they're going to surprise a lot of people who don't watch the team, who will just see like, oh, the Leafs will probably destroy them because they're a way better team, and then it'll be really interesting. It'll be fun. But
Yeah.
like you said with the game sevens, the Sens have never won one ever, and this core has not even been to the playoffs yet. So who knows how they would handle a situation like that? And whereas at least Toronto has been losing all their game sevens with their current core, but you got to think that they would eventually be able to pull it off, right? So I feel
Yeah.
like I said, my heart says Sens in 7, but my head says Leafs in 7. And I think I'm also just kind of saying that so that I set my expectations a little lower, because then like it's already a success that the Sens made the playoffs this season.
For
They could
sure.
get swept, and that would really suck. I would be pissed off, but it would still be a successful season overall. It's like, okay, at least this team figured out that they can actually get to the playoffs.
Yeah.
But it's like they're playing with house money, right? Like as long as we win 2 games, I'll be really happy.
I I want to agree with you because you are right. Like you are 100% right. And I would fully agree with you if it was anyone but the Leafs. Like,
Yeah.
if
Oh
you
my
look at
God.
anyone else in the conference, like outside Montreal, I guess they could lose. Well, maybe not New Jersey. So Tampa, Florida, Washington, Carolina, Sens get swept in those series. I'm like, yeah, I guess. Like this is a young team. They don't have any playoff experience. This is brand new for them. The East has some really solid teams. New Jersey, that outside of like Toronto, Montreal, New Jersey's probably the only team where I'd be bummed if they lost. I think they should win that series.
Hmm.
Um, but like, yeah, it's just I'm completely with you. It's great that they made the playoffs, and I am ecstatic that they did at this point. Yeah, it's all bonus. But if it's the Leafs, and so I desperately, number one, I want to beat the Leafs. I want the Sens to win. And number two, it's just like they need to kill this Battle of Ontario curse. And it probably doesn't even count because it's been over 20 years since the last one. Um, but I don't know. I can't. I can't. I want to say it's fine no matter what happens, but I know I won't treat it
Yeah.
that way.
I won't react that way when we do get eliminated, like if it happens
Yeah.
against the Leafs. But at least right now, when I'm more level-headed, I can say at least as long as they win a couple games, win one on home ice at least, and give the fans and the
Yeah.
city some huge excitement, that's enough for me at this current moment. However, uh, once the series starts, I'll probably be feeling a little different. I'll be more emotional, and of course, like I said earlier, with how streaky the Sens are, I'm expecting them to either go up 2-0 or go down 2-0 in the series, maybe even 3-0, like up or down
Yeah.
either way. If they get a series lead and then blow it, then I would be super disappointed. But as long as it's, back and forth, uh, and a competitive affair, and they lose, then that's fine. But I don't know. It's tough. I think if we want to get into more specifically comparing the matchup, I just feel like Olmark has to steal some games
Yeah.
because, like, the Sens have done a pretty good job of shutting down the Leafs stars in recent memory this season and a little bit into last season too. And they are also not known as playoff performers, but there has to be a time where they break through and just like elevate their game. And I feel like they'll be extra motivated to do that in this rivalry matchup against Ottawa. So I think Linus Olmark is going to have to steal a couple. And just with the firepower that the Leafs have on offense, they're going to be driving play. Like, even if our lines do a pretty good job of like shutting down major scoring chances against their top guys, they're probably going to be dominating the shot clock in most games. So you're going to need your goalie to come up big.
Yeah, I give the Sens the edge goaltending wise, but not by that much. Like the Leafs have two above average goaltenders right now. Um between Stolars and Wool. I don't know who's starting, but it's not a weak point for the Leafs for sure. So
Yeah, for the first time
it's
in a while,
pretty
because
close.
I feel like they've had not necessarily bad goaltending, but like not the strength of the team, or at least goalies who would just like flop year after year in the playoffs. But yeah, like on paper, I'm like, oh yeah, Linus Olmark is better than both of those guys. But the numbers, Joseph Woll and Anthony Stolarz. Anthony Stolarz has a really good save percentage, and then Joseph Woll's numbers are pretty similar to Olmark's, I think, in terms of like save percentage and GAA.
Yeah.
So, so even though in my head I'm like, oh yeah, Olmark is clearly the best goalie out of these guys, you can't say for sure. It depends how these
No.
dudes play in the playoffs, and like if one of them can just take the run as the starter and play every game. Because Anthony Stolarz has been a career backup, and even this season, I think he's going to be their starter heading into the playoffs, but even this season he has less than like 35 games played or something like that, right? So who knows how that's going to go? It's a huge question mark, but it applies to Olmark too because he was on Buffalo for the first few years of his career. He gets to Boston, has really good regular seasons, but then not great playoff success in any of those seasons. And Jeremy Swayman started the series last year. Olmark was the backup, which was part of the reason that they moved Olmark to Ottawa. So it's going to be
Yeah.
interesting to see the goaltending matchup for sure. I feel like we should be able to say that Olmark is clearly the better goalie, but the numbers don't necessarily say that because Stolarz just has that killer save percentage in a lower number of games played.
Definitely. Um, I don't know. It's probably biased. I want to give Ottawa the edge goaltending wise, but it is not by much. It's very close.
And I don't know, just for like the rest of the rosters, like I mentioned earlier, I think that the depth, the bottom six for the Sens could be huge. Specifically that third line, if they're matched up against Matthews and Marner, that's
Yeah.
probably gonna that could decide the series is how well that line does against those two guys. If they're able to shut them down pretty efficiently, that's huge for the Sens. If they're not, and then the Sens have to adjust and try something else, then that will create problems. But like comparing the forward groups, it's like, what the hell are we gonna say about the top six? Like, obviously the Leafs have the better top six. It's just a
Yeah.
question of if they can actually perform in the playoffs. Because William Nylander has been the only guy scoring goals in the playoffs recently. Matthews is up and down. Marner gets some assists, but not really many goals, not very many clutch moments or anything like that. So I don't know. And then defense as well. It's like up until this year, the Leafs have always been leaky defensively. They got Chris Tanev and they got Craig Berube coaching, so those are huge upgrades. But I just feel like is it really different this year for the Leafs, or will they still have that playoff choke? Because again, only one series victory since 2017, and I don't know, maybe they just suck at playoffs. Maybe they're going to have another first round choke. Like, sure, their defensive stats are better this season. They're probably an improved team, but will it matter? Who knows? I feel like it's all about the mental game. The Sens are going to be playing with house money, and the pressure is going to be on the Leafs for it's like, oh, you've proved that you're so much better this year because you finally won the division. They've never won the division before. But now you got to prove it in the playoffs, which they still haven't been able to do. So that's one thing, is that I feel like the pressure is going to be way more on the Leafs, and
Oh yeah.
and if they struggle early on with that pressure, it could be huge. Could be huge for the Sens.
Yeah, I'm really hoping that the Sens players aren't feeling a ton of pressure, and I really hope that the fan base doesn't, put too much pressure on them. Like I think it's a huge deal that this team is back in the playoffs, and I understand that, like I think us included, we are desperate to see a bit of success, but like you look at the top six forwards and the top four defensemen on this team, three of them total have been in the playoffs: Giroux, Perron, and Jensen. Right? You look at the rest of the top six being Kachuk, Stutzla, um,
Batherson,
Cousins,
Cousins.
and Batherson, and then to the top four on D, you got Shabbat, Sanderson, and Zub.
Mm-hmm.
Like this team up front has next to no playoff experience. Obviously, like guys like Amadio and Perron and Giroux, and these are all players that have won or made it to the final at some point in their career, and that's going to be great to have. But like most of those guys aren't the ones playing 20 minutes a night.
Mm-hmm. That's a good
So
point.
I don't want to put too much pressure on this team. I hope, like, I know for a fact that Brady is going to be a fucking menace and he's going to want to win so badly. But I just hope that they go in with the mindset of let's just see what happens. Let's play our game. Let's have fun, because it shouldn't be like Leafs win in five or six or something. Like, yeah, it sucks, but like it's not a failure of a season because of it. So I hope that they really kind of just enjoy it for what it is, and aim for that divisional spot next season.
Mm-hmm. Totally agree. Just again, the fact that they're here is already they've already accomplished what they needed to from this season in
Yeah.
terms of expectations. Now from here on out, it's like, all right, surprise us. Let's have some fun now. Not that there's an
Yeah.
expectation of that, but it's like we're hoping for it, you know?
How do you match the D up? Like, so in my head, you take the top six D from both teams. Sanderson's the best player. Am I a huge homer in saying Shabbat's the second best?
In terms of defense?
Just in terms of all around, out of the defensemen.
Yeah, like the defenseman for both teams.
Yeah.
I don't think that's homerism. Like, I don't know if
I
Morgan
think
Riley had a
Tanev and
good.
Carlo might be close.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know if Morgan Riley had a good season this year, but I feel like he's kind of tapered off in the last few years. He's not
Definitely.
like.
I'd put him 3 on the Leafs.
Yeah, and then obviously Chris Tanev is like the best defensively, like other than Sanderson, and like they'd probably be close. So yeah, so like you were thinking like which pairing would you match up against, like which forward lines against the Leafs, basically?
Oh, I'm just talking shit. I think the Sens have the 2 best defensemen in the series. But
Oh yeah.
yeah, I don't
In terms
know
of
how
all
you,
around game, I think so because Chris Tanev is all defense, no offense,
yeah.
and Morgan Riley is the opposite. Whereas I think Shabbat's two-way game improved massively this season, and obviously we know the
Yeah.
two-way beast that Sanderson is.
Yeah. I think it's fair to say that Tanev is just like a better Zoob.
Pretty much
Um,
more
but as
physicality.
far as pairings go, like because they were playing Riley and Tanev, are they still together? Or has it been Carlo on that top pair with Tanev? I have no idea.
Honestly,
I'm
no
not sure
clue.
how.
They might have
I
had
haven't watched
Riley
as
and
many Leafs
Carlo.
games since the trade deadline, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm not really trying to watch Leafs games normally.
Yeah, I'm not sure how the pairings set up there are. But like, I don't know. Because the idea of putting out that third line to shut down Matthews is interesting. It's kind of scary. And I don't know if you just like try and rock Sanderson Zub with that third line if you're playing if you have a defensive zone start.
hmm
But I don't know. I don't know how you play this out. It's a tough matchup no matter what.
Yeah, I just feel like it has to be that third forward line against Matthews' line because I don't think you want Stützle or Dylan Cousins going like head to head with
For
Matthews.
sure.
Like Stützle is really good, obviously, but if you could get him out against different lines, like maybe against Tavares' line because that's a good foot speed matchup. Stützle can blow by Tavares, but Matthews can outmuscle Stützle, if that was the matchup, or if you manage to get Stützle out there for shifts against their bottom six, then obviously that's ideal. That's what you want to be doing.
For sure.
And it's funny because like normally the coach for the Leafs would probably be like, let's try to get Matthews out there against their bottom six, but it might actually be the best option to match our third line against them. But I would put Sanderson and Zub with them for that assignment, like as much as possible. It's got to be Jake Sanderson out there against their best players. Like
Yeah.
probably like you have the pairings on the Leafs, right? Matthews and Marner on one line usually, and then Tavares and Nylander usually on the second line. Like they mix it up sometimes, but that's the usual
Yeah.
pairings. So for me, Shabbat Zub has to take Matthews and Marner, and then, or sorry, I said Shabbat, Sanderson Zub, and then Shabbat Jensen with the slightly, the B tier on the Leafs of Tavares and Nylander, even though they're good enough to be like any team's first liners.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's how it goes.
But side note, just for the sake of some hater talk, can you imagine? Can you imagine what we'll be able to do as a fan base if the Sens win this series, shut down Marner completely in doing so, and then
Yeah.
Marner signs somewhere else in the summer?
Oh, it would be 10 times funnier than just beating the Leafs in any other year just because it's the Marner contract year. And if they go out in
Yeah.
the first round, I don't think you can justify signing him like at all. Like even though he just had a 100-point season, but it's like
He had an
damn,
unbelievable season.
it's like damn, you got to
he's
switch it
so
up.
good.
You got to
He's
switch it up
so
at some
good.
point though. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that extra element of it is awesome. This is the thing. If we lose but we win a couple games, I'll be mad if we get destroyed, if we get swept.
Oh yeah.
If we lose in 6, 5 maybe if like the games are close, I'll be okay. If we lose in 6, I'll be content, and 7 obviously. But if we win this series in any fashion, it is going to be the funniest thing possible, the funniest possible outcome for any Sens season like that we've had in a long time. And I know I'm going to be watching those LFRs for every Sens win in the playoffs this year. Before I applied to SDPN originally, I was like a hate watcher, not hate, but like I would watch when the Leafs lose, when the Leafs would have a really bad loss. So some of the content that might come out from the Toronto media, if this ends up being a playoff series loss to the Senators, is going to be glorious if it does happen. So I'm not like gloating already already, but it's just the possibility. The possibility of that is amazing. Whereas, like, if on the other side, if the Leafs beat us, we can just be like, well, that's what we expected to happen.
For sure. I'm trying to go into this series with the same mindset I had like already set up when I thought it was going to be Ottawa against Washington, because I was looking at the season series against the Caps, and every game had to go to overtime or a shootout between Ottawa and Washington. And in my head, I was like, you know what? If the Sens play the Caps and the Sens lose in 5, but 4 of those games went to OT, I am perfectly okay with that. So I don't want the Sens to get swept or lose in 5, but if they're in it every single game, I don't know how upset I can be at them. I'll be really upset that they were within a goal of every single game and they lost, but I'd much rather that than seeing them get blown out. So I'll try. I'm saying it now. I don't know if it's gonna happen. I'm really gonna try my best to look on the bright side of things
Yeah,
as much as
me
I
too.
can. But like, it'd be so much easier if they could just lose to Tampa instead.
I know, right?
But
If you just lose to Tampa or Washington, then it's like, oh no, well, it was such a fun season. And like, I'll still try to have that if we lose to the Leafs, but again, the emotions are going to be riding so high that it's like I can't
yeah,
guarantee to myself that I'm going to remain level-headed. I'm trying to remain level-headed right now, but as soon as the games start, I don't think I will be level-headed anymore. So, that could result in some interesting content on this channel after the games, for sure.
definitely. Yeah.
I think that'll do it for this segment. We'll take a look at chat before we wrap things up tonight. But we are just going to also shout out our merch real quick. If you want to pick up some Game Over Ottawa merch before the playoffs, what better way to support something you love than by repping it on yourself? Game Over's apparel line has dropped with 3 unique lines. Whether you feel the nostalgic pull of our retro skater design, if you want to make a statement with our established design, if you want to wear your love for goalies proudly with our live and die by the goalie design, or if you need a new coffee mug, a new toque, if you want to buy for next winter in advance, we got you covered for all of those things. Designed by Brady Chalice from Game Over Winnipeg. Use the QR code on stream now and take a look through our apparel store. Help us rebuild local sports media in Canada while repping your community. So yeah, into the fourth period for the final time this regular season. We'll have some playoff shows coming up, but game 82. Here we are with the last segment of the regular season. It's fun to be like, oh, we're not actually done yet. Regular season,
Yeah.
but we're not done. It's a weird feeling.
Yeah, that's nice.
Also a weird feeling
It's
to not be checking the wild card standings at this point in the show, because for the past like few months, that was just the automatic like, let's take a look at how all the other teams did. But the past few weeks we haven't had to do that. We've been chilling, and now
been nice.
end of the season. So let's see what we got in chat tonight. Oh yeah, Rusty Carr said it was a classic Sens game. It was kind of like how the season started. I was definitely thinking back to the 8-7 game against the Kings, which I think was the 3rd game of the year.
Yeah.
It felt like that. Like, okay, we had some of those high-scoring games at the beginning of the season, kind of, I think, before the team really learned Travis Green's system. And
forgot how to score for a good chunk of the season
yeah,
as well.
and so like when they learned how to play defense and they forgot how to score, it felt like we were back to that a little bit, just because it was like, this game doesn't matter, so we're just gonna like play ragtag hockey and just have some fun out there. It was shades to what the Sens looked like before they learned Travis Green's system and before he really got his hands on this team from a coaching perspective.
Yeah. Made for a fun one. I don't think I'd have as much fun with these if they were games that mattered, but just if it's just like it doesn't affect anything and it's just for the entertainment of tonight, I really enjoyed it.
Kay in the chat saying, guys, they're calling your team stinky over at Game Over Toronto. But okay, I guess we might as well mention as well that we've been doing the crossover episodes during the regular season, which is like sometimes on our channel, sometimes on another team's channel, depending who's the home team. But for the playoffs, we're not doing crossovers because who wants to sit here and talk nice about your opponent and talk all friendly with your opponent? It would probably get too heated if we did crossover games, game overs for the Battle of Ontario. So You can tune
Yeah.
in to Game Over Ottawa. You won't have to go anywhere else to the Toronto channel or anything like that. It'll just be Sens content. We won't be doing
Yeah.
the crossovers and having to talk about the filthy Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah, and none of the Leafs hosts want to be doing the show while I'm sitting next to them crying. So
Yeah. And
make it really awkward.
could you imagine if we were doing a crossover stream and we win the series and then you'll just be like sitting back as one of the Toronto hosts like just has a crash out live on air. They
Yeah.
can do that on their own when the Sens beat them. But we won't have to sit by and listen to it. We can celebrate if that does happen. So
I am praying for a Mike Amadio game winner.
yeah, how come him? Oh, former Leaf, right? Former Leaf
Former Leaf.
and former Senator before they brought him back.
Yeah.
Single digit games played for both teams
Crazy.
before he came back. It's a weird
Yeah.
one. Is he the only former Leaf that we have? I'm trying to think.
Yes.
I think so. Oh, if Adam Gaudette played for the Marlies, so that would be pretty funny too. But it's not the same. It's not the
That would
same
be
as
funny.
if they were actually on the roster.
Yeah, if Gaudette, I'd be shocked if they scratched him. He's got to be on the fourth line. Stick him on the fourth line, and yeah, I think that's fine.
He's been the 4C solidly for months now, like without
Yeah,
ever being taken out of the lineup or swapped for a different 4C option. And he is also frequently on the second power play unit, so they're probably going to stick with that, I would think.
yeah, I think so.
Adam Firebear saying, I really hate saying this, but I can't shake the feeling that the Leafs will win a round or two this year. You're not wrong. I don't blame you for thinking that. And I probably agree, just because I did say Leafs in 7. That's my like logical take. I think that they should win. They should win, but that it was also the case for like their like since like 2018, like that first series when with Matthews where they lost to the Washington Capitals. It was like, okay, no one expected them to win. They were in the position that the Sens are in now, where you win a couple games, have a couple close losses, you lose the series, and everyone's happy because the team took a step. But since then, damn near every year, you can say that the Leafs should have won their series. Because even if like maybe Boston was the better team on paper, it was always close. It was always like the Leafs had a 3-2 series lead multiple times, and then they lose in Game 7. It's like, yes, once again the Leafs should win, but will they? Because they often don't. The track record exists, and they should have to break through eventually. But who knows? Who knows if it will actually happen this time? Because there's something like 1 for 8 in first rounds in the Matthews era. So who knows? At a certain point, you have to go with the odds, right? If that it hasn't worked. It hasn't worked for almost a decade. Getting out of the first round only once. So will it finally
And
work?
how many first rounds have the Sens lost in that era? None. Weird.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Undefeated in the playoffs.
Interesting.
And I said this on our show after the Montreal game, but if I remember correctly, and I probably should have fact checked, but I didn't. They have Craig Berube on the Leafs now. Obviously, like, oh, he's won a cup. You know what happened the next season after he won a cup with the Blues? You know what happened in the playoffs? Do you remember?
This is what 20. So they won in 2019. This is 2020
so
bubble.
It was the bubble, to be fair. So maybe it was a little weird. But
speaking of series that the Leafs should have won,
exactly, another example.
The Blues. Where did the Blues?
For Craig Berube's Blues, their cup defense was against the Vancouver Canucks. And you know who the coach was.
Oh my God, that's right.
You know who the coach was. So maybe Travis Green will be able to outcoach Craig Berube.
That's right.
Who knows? Maybe.
That was Demko standing on his head, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was crazy that year.
I forgot about that.
It's funny. Like people will be like, oh well, obviously the Leafs are going to win now because they have Craig Berube. He won a cup. He's going to teach them how to win the cup. Well, we have Travis Green. Travis Green is 1-0, baby, against Craig Berube in playoff series matchups. So who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? There's some interesting little storylines.
Be interesting.
Anything else you've seen in chat that you want to shout out?
Ryan says if I see Hammer in the playoffs, I'm gonna snap.
Oh God. Yeah.
We've talked about that a little bit. Like I think we saw his last game as an Ottawa Senator tonight. Um,
You
I
think?
definitely, I really hope we saw it. It's definitely his final regular season game as an Ottawa Senator.
Yeah,
Um,
I sure hope so.
I can't see Steve Staios being like, that's my kind of guy. That's my type of defenseman. Um, there's just no way he plays in the playoffs, right? Like I feel like media finally bugged Travis Green into scratching him.
Yeah, after
Um,
that really bad game, whichever one it was, where in the media after they were like, "Why did you play Travis Hamonic so many minutes? Why did he play more than Zub?" And he was like, "I don't know. I guess maybe we'll look at the game tape." And
yeah, we'll check the tape.
after that, he was scratched until we clinched. It was like 8 games in a
Yeah,
row of Matt and Paolo playing ahead of him. So I'd like to think that Travis Green has finally changed his mind. And especially when you see like the turnover tonight, it's like, holy shit, you can't have that. You just can't have that.
it's
Period. Much less in the playoffs.
dude is it boggles my mind how bad he is.
Oh god.
It's incredible.
Yeah. If he gets into the lineup without there being an injury, like if it's not a necessity because of injury, then that's going to be just like malpractice. Like that's going to be just like sabotage. Like Ryan also said in the chat, Travis Green will let the Leafs win for sure. He's a Leafer. If we see Travis Hamonic in the lineup with no injuries, that he replaces someone with Travis Hamonic, then maybe you're right. Maybe at that point he is trying to let the Leafs win if he plays Travis Hamonic. It could
You
be.
know what really, really upsets me? And there's no reason for me to be doing this because it's just not going to make anyone happy. Um, obviously, where they were comes into play a little bit. So like it's not a perfect example, but on paper, the Sens gave up and received the same thing in acquiring Travis Hamonic and trading away Dylan DeMello.
Oh God.
They
It
were
was a
both
third, right?
third round picks.
Yeah, freaking the classic line from Pierre Dorian. I gave them a third because I didn't have a fourth. What genius, absolutely genius general manager behavior right there. Fucking, oh my God.
Unbelievable.
And
And
then
listen,
somehow,
the third for DeMello is Marylainen. So like
at least there's that.
there's something there. There's something there. But my God, could you imagine instead? Like, I don't know how it would work. Maybe you shove Zub on the third pair or something, but a right in Zub and DeMello.
See, that would be like one of the best right sides in like the Eastern
My
Conference at that point.
God.
Holy shit. And Dylan DeMello seemed to really like it here too. You know, it's not like, and it's not like he was one of those star players like Stone and Duchesne where it's like I need to win, I need to win now, I need
Yeah.
to go make my money in an American market. Dylan DeMello, it was more like he was not an established player when we picked him up in the Carlson deal. He was kind of a throw-in.
No.
Sharks fans didn't really like him, and then he became a top 4D here. Winnipeg gets him for a steal of a trade, and then he's Josh Morrissey's partner for the next like
He's
5 years
so
after
good.
that.
Yeah, I
Crazy.
still have his I've held on to his I have his Future Watch rookie autograph card that I got out of a box. I'm still
Nice.
hanging on to it. I'm just hanging on to it. I refuse
That's
to trade it or sell it. I'm
you
keeping
got
it.
too much emotional attachment to it.
It's part of my Sens collection. Yeah.
Is he wearing a Sharks jersey on it?
Oh yeah, he is.
That's the funny asterisk there.
Yeah.
Um I think last thing from the chat for tonight is Hamza said, I have a weirdly decent feeling about the Sens' chances this year and not just for this series. If we get through the Leafs, I think the exciting part is that I think the Eastern Conference is extremely wide open this year. You look at the West and there's like a few like juggernaut teams where it's like
Yeah.
those are going to be bloodbaths where really good teams are going home early, whereas in the East, I find the East is like really just a bunch of mid, to be honest. Like
I mean,
Washington being the best team in the East, and I think they're a paper tiger, and I think they might lose to Montreal. So, and then you have the Leafs being division
Well, we've
winners,
seen that
and
before, right? We've
it's a
seen number 8
possibility.
Montreal beat number 1 Washington before.
Yes, it has happened before.
Um, it's just Sens beat Toronto. They got to beat the winner of that Battle of Florida. I
That's
don't
true.
know. I don't know how
That
that
that would be
goes.
real tough because I think, yeah, like I'm saying the East is wide open. However, the winner of the Battle of Florida, I think, becomes the favorite after round one, you know, whether it's Florida or Tampa, because I would take either of those teams probably over Toronto or Ottawa in the second round.
Yeah.
But again, who knows? Maybe the Florida teams kick the shit out of each other in a seven game series, and then
Yeah.
maybe Matthew Tkachuk can't play. Maybe his injury is not quite fully healed. I don't know. Who knows? Stuff can
My
happen.
I haven't fully thought it out yet. I just did so I haven't signed up for the by the way, everyone watching, join the Discord. Mod set up a bracket challenge for
Yes.
Game Over hosts and viewers. So please do that. I haven't done it yet. I did one this morning just to set up for a playoff pool draft. And I was like, you know what? Just for a visualizer, let me just make a bracket really quick. So I didn't put a ton of thought into it. It was just gut instinct for the whole thing. I had Jets over Lightning.
Okay.
So the second round, if Ottawa gets out of this, still scares me.
Yeah, that's fair. I did a couple of brackets. That where I kind of tried to pick different things in each one except for ones that I think
Yeah.
are like a guarantee, which is not really many. Like most
No, a
the only
lot of
series
series are coin flips this
the only
year.
series that I'm really adamant on is Colorado over Dallas, just because Heiskanen isn't going to be back for round one, and Jason Robertson injured himself in the last game of the
Yeah.
season. So
Yeah.
if both of them are out for the whole series, you got to think Colorado takes that, especially with the way they loaded up at the deadline. That's the
Definitely.
one that I think is like that's one I'm most confident in. But yeah, in the couple of brackets I did, I think both of my like finals matchups ended up being like recent ones. Like I think one of them I ended up with a Colorado Tampa rematch. And then the other one I think I ended up putting like Florida and Vegas in the final two, which is also a rematch from the past few years. So I
Yeah.
feel like those teams that have won recently are remain the favorites. But you never know like how long those teams can actually can keep it up
Yeah.
because
I'd love to see Winnipeg do it. I would be
yeah,
so happy seeing that.
this is a year where we have usually I'll root for a Canadian team if it's not the Leafs or the Habs. We got
Right.
5 Canadian teams in this year. 5 out of 7 is pretty
It's
damn
pretty
good.
amazing.
If one of the Western Canadian teams wants to go all the way, I'm here for it. Just as long as it's not the Leafs or the Habs.
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty good place to end for tonight. That'll do it for the regular season of Game Over Ottawa. Normally, this is where I would shout out what our next show is going to be, but we don't know for sure who's hosting yet. But Game 1, Leafs and Sens, Battle of Ontario on Sunday night. So we will most likely have a broadcast for you on that one. I know that like because it's the first playoffs in 8 years, like I'm gonna go to a game and also like some of the road games I want to like go watch with my friends, you know, like it's because it's been
Yeah.
so long. So like I don't know if I'm gonna be available for all the first round games, but I'll try to get on here for some of the post game shows. So we'll see how that goes. Stay tuned. We'll schedule the streams once we know which ones are gonna be happening. But hopefully we can get a stream for every game. So the very first playoffs in Game Over Ottawa history. It's gonna be fun. I think that'll do it for tonight. Thank you so much for watching or listening, everyone, and have a good night.